Welcome to the Irish Roots Cafe. I'm Michael O'Loughlin. This podcast is from 1984. It is number 3 in our 6-part series on tracing your Irish ancestors. Let me know what you'd like to hear in the future. My homepage is at www.irishroots.com and my email is mike@irishroots.com. We do plan to podcast on other topics when this series is finished, so be sure to let me know what might pique your interest and we'll do our best to take care of it. I think I hear my friend Peter now opening up the 3rd session way back in 1984.
And when ye come, and all the flowers are dying, if I am dead, as dead I will may be, you'll come and find the place where I am lying, and kneel and say an Ave there for me.
Thank you for that tune once again, Peter. We're here in the living room after taking a short break. We also have an ex-researcher of sorts here with us today, Kevin Fisher. Through the miracle of Irish genealogy, I reunited with Kevin. When we were children, we went to and graduated from kindergarten together and then fell out of touch. Meeting for research and getting a little help from him on photographing ancient coats of arms, we become reacquainted. That he has quite a bit of knowledge on the subject of genealogy and research, particularly in America. The first subject I'd like to start out on here, when you're looking back on your search and some final finishing touches, will be Irish coats of arms. Do you have a coat of arms applied to your family or your family name? Can you hang it in your house by law? Well, to begin to get an understanding of Irish coats of arms, you should consult MacLysot's book, Irish Families. Here you'll find several hundred Irish families with their coats of arms illustrated in color, and a little bit about the family itself included in the book. These arms are the arms that are today currently recognized by Dublin Castle in Ireland. Now, we also have just finished publishing the Book of Arms, which contains over 1,000 coats of arms. It includes the arms in MacLysot's book, but they are just black and white sketches. The neat thing about this new publication is that there are some 800 or more families included in this book, and it tells the source from which they were taken. The last chapter includes coats of arms that have no official basis for being granted in official repositories, but based upon Irish tradition in some people's beliefs, they are valid. And I'd like to tell you a story about the first contact I had as a child with Irish coats of arms. A friend of my father's brought back from Ireland as a present a coat of arms from Ireland. We hung it on the kitchen wall and we thought it was very nice. Upon inspecting these coats of arms very closely, I found out that underneath the arms was the name MacLoughlin. I thought this a bit strange since our name was O'Loughlin, so I asked. I said, "Are you sure this is us? What Mac? Is this what's this doing here?" My father inquired, and he said that the person who brought us the gift had asked the same question in the shop in Dublin where it was purchased. And the shopkeeper said, "Oh, and sure, it's all the same. Mac and O, it makes no difference." Well, I know much better now. Coat of arms did belong to the MacLoughlin clan or sept in Ireland, and the O'Loughlin arms were completely different. There is, however, a proud Irish tradition as far as coats of arms go. By strict heraldic law, you have to prove your descent and trace your genealogy back to prove that you are even related to a family who was granted coats of arms. Because your name is spelled as the same as the family who was granted arms means nothing at all. You may not even be related to the family who owned those arms. But in Ireland, there is often an expanded view of things, and some case can be made for being able to show or claim the arms of the clan leader or the county family that was predominant in the area, to claim that as your own or to show it as your own. even though it's not officially granted by an official repository. And I guess the most important thing to say is that when you see a coat of arms, whether the offer comes through you in the mail or if you're in an Irish gift shop, if you really want to be particular and you want to find out where did that coat of arms come from, it may not have come from Ireland at all. It could be coat of arms granted to a family of the name in an entirely different part of the world. So it's all right to hang a coat of arms from Ireland up in your house as long as you know what it is you're looking at. First of all, find out that it is from Ireland, and I think you're safe then. We can all take pride in any of the families of Ireland, but make sure it is from Ireland, and then if you're really particular, trace your family back. You can go to the genealogical office in Dublin where they have pedigrees on hand, and they can explain to you how to achieve your own coat of arms should you desire to do so. And when you speak about coat of arms, you're also talking about ancient genealogies. And when you get to this point, if you've traced your family back to Ireland, you may want to go a little bit further than the 1800s or the 1700s. Go back in time as far as you can trace it. And one of the most important things for you to know to even attempt this is the geographic location, the geographic spelling of names that changes. You've got to know how the country was laid out. You have to know the baronies, the provinces, and the counties of Ireland. And you must be aware that just as Irish names are spelled differently, Irish place names are spelled differently and translated differently as well. So going through records, you must look for the sound of words as well as the exact spelling. Otherwise, you might pass over your exact townland or your exact barony and not even know it. I might mention that a few of the common name changes you should be aware of. Kings County can be found in old records. Today it is referred to as Offaly County, and Queens County, which can be found in the older records, is today referred to as Leeks or Leash. I'm not sure of the Gaelic pronunciation there. I am not an expert. You'll also find some things like port of departure being Queenstown, County Cork in Ireland. Queenstown, of course, is now called Cobh or Cobh. That's spelled C-O-B-H. I don't know the exact pronunciation again. Those are just some examples to make you aware that place names are not engraved in stone either. I might just briefly go over some of the geographic divisions in Ireland. These were the ancient kingdoms. You had Ulster in the north, Leinster in the east, Connaught in the west, and Munster in the south. There was an old province by the name of Meath, which became incorporated into the province of Leinster. There were also kingdoms known as Oriel and Aileach, which is spelled A-I-L-E-A-C-H, but they were merged with Ulster in the 17th century. The county with which you are probably familiar, there were some 32 counties, and it was the largest local administrative division. The barony is another ancient division of Ireland based upon Irish families' territorial holdings. Some 325 baronies exist, and they were used as a unit in the 19th century land valuations. They are normally comprised of several parishes. The parish in Ireland exists as both a civil and an ecclesiastical district. You'll have to distinguish when looking in records whether you're after a civil parish or a religious parish. The townland is the smallest civil district in Ireland, and the words town, hamlet, and ville were also used to describe this 17th century geographical division. It was a rural subdivision of the civil parish. Another division to be aware of are poor law unions. They were usually comprised of several townlands and came into being as a result of the Poor Law Relief Act of 1838. They were formed for taxation purposes to support the poor and destitute of the area. The poorhouse itself was normally situated in a local market town of the area. This is just to give you an idea that there's some other things to be aware of when going back in the genealogies. I found that Keating's History of Ireland, particularly Volume 3, which includes some of the ancient topographical poems on the families of Ireland, is very helpful when trying to first understand ancient Irish genealogies. You have to remember oral tradition has played a very important role in separating fact from fiction. Can be difficult, and you must take things with a grain of salt. Of course, Irish family names, proper first and last names, go back to about 1000 AD, so that's not too bad. But if you want to trace your name back before 1000 AD, it can get a little difficult. A little humor there, folks. Do we have any comments or questions so far? Well, we're going to have some special words from Kevin Fisher here in a moment. he's not only traced his own family, he's traced other families, and I think he's helped in some adoption-type research. So he may have some interesting words for us. As a matter of fact, I think I'll let Kevin put in a few words right now on publishing your work after you're through with your initial research. Some of the steps he went through in deciding how to publish it, where to put it out, whether he wanted to sell it or not. So Kevin, why don't you step right up here and give us a few words.
Well, first of all, I was fortunate. I'm a photographer. I do that for a living, and I have all the equipment necessary to reproduce old photographs, make line negatives for the written material. This is all in preparation to go to the printers. But also, I was fortunate enough to have a brother-in-law who works in the printing business. Because of that, and because of my photography background, greatly reduced the cost of printing a book.
How much did you have to spend on that first book? Even with all your connections, how much did you have to end up putting out in actual money?
Discounting the research.
Sure, yeah, just actual cash to other people.
Cash. I think it was $1,200 for a 150-page book, and it included 500 or 600 old photographs of family members. All else that goes into it.
500 copies is still quite a bit, probably compared to what most people end up selling after they publish a family history. Did you send copies out to libraries or people that had helped you? Who'd you send them to?
I had promised a few copies to individuals for their helping me gather this information. As many as 20 copies I gave away free. And I've also sent copies to libraries, Library of Congress, churches that helped me gain information.
Well, after sending all these copies out, have you gotten any response back, like further research or further tips?
I'm continuing my research, of course, and what I do now, I trade a book for information. Since I've more or less stopped selling this book, I just use it in exchange for new information to encourage other people to become interested in their family history. By that, go out and actually dig up new information for me.
Well, I know what you mean there. I've had the same experience. I mean, as late as 5, 6, 7 years later, I'll get phone calls from someone who is maybe just entering the field, and they have their family history and they want to share it with me. So the search really continues, and you get a lot more helpers, and you do a lot less work to get a lot more information. For those of you who might want to add some photographs from Ireland to your family history when you're done, photographs and pictures in the National Library of Ireland and a few other sources are available, and they have a catalog which is listed in our companion booklet here. That'll give you the name and address to write to get a hold of reproductions of some of these paintings and photographs, and that can add a nice touch to your book, showing a picture of the old sod to the folk. Have you ever, anybody here, have you ever hired a researcher for specific research, or what has your experience been on that count?
Personally, I've never hired a researcher. I have had people offer to research for me in certain areas of the country, but I've never paid for the service. I'm not opposed to it, short of actually going to the spot or to the place where these events occurred. Probably the best way to gain information. You can't find everything out being so far removed across the country.
That's true. I found that you can go two ways. You can go to an official researcher, and you can go to a local researcher who is perhaps retired and does this as a hobby. And when you're asking for a specific bit of information, I found that you can get it, and you can get it without spending very much money. For the professional genealogist, you can write the LDS library and enclose a self-addressed stamped envelope, and they'll return you a list of researchers. And I believe you can do that with the Board for Certification of Genealogists as well, and they'll supply you a list of researchers. For very specific things in local areas, I have usually called the local library out of state, talked to the librarian or research librarian, and asked if they knew the name of someone who could help research my family, and it's proved very successful. Usually they'll pass my name on to a person. The person will then contact me, and they're very happy to research specific records for me, and I've had very good results. Yes, Joe?
One of the things which I have done and had good results from, I have personally never hired a researcher, but if there's a genealogy society close to where I need to research, I have written with specific questions to ask them. Was there an index to such and so? Are there records kept at the local library on X? And found that they've been very helpful in writing back and saying, no, but try this library, no, but the parish priest's name is such and so. I wouldn't dream of writing them a generalized letter and just asking them to go research something for me because they're obviously very busy. But if you have a specific piece of information you're trying to get hold of, usually other genealogists or keepers of county records are very helpful and want to be of help to you and give you your information.
Ed,
I have written to a county clerk in a couple of counties in Kentucky and just asked, do you have the maiden name on record in your marriage records for? And I would have the name of the husband and roughly the time when I believe them to have been married, and said, could you please just look up the maiden name of the spouse and send it to me? In some cases they have found it and have sent the information to me without charging me.
another example of how just by picking up the phone or writing a letter, you can break through on your search, and it's just a matter of doing it. I'd say one of the other final steps is to finalize everything you've done and then prepare to begin again. Now, whether you will actually do the research again or someone else in your family or someone from out of state, gather your material together. You'll probably have a file of miscellaneous information you have not used. Put it away and store it because someone will come knocking at your door one day doing the same things that you did. I might add, if you do decide to sell the book, you can get lists of people with your surname in the phone books at the library. Send a little notice out to them, tell them what you've done. Put an ad in the Genealogical Helper. Send a few free copies out for review in newspaper columns that specialize in genealogy, and you'll find some interest there. I think that sort of finalizes things for now. I'll come back with a few more comments later. Our next session, Session 4, will be on Irish family names, and perhaps you'll be interested to know if your name anciently had an O, a Mac, or a Fitz before it. Thank you very much.
Well, that wraps up our trip back to 1984. Glad you came to the Irish Roots Cafe today. Hope you'll be back for some more on our next broadcast when we'll be covering Irish family names. Peter will be here and the rest of the gang. Hope to see you then. Remember, you can contact me at mike@irishroots.com or on my webpage at www.irishroots.com. Thank you.